how many important discoveries in this world have been made by neurodivergent people, from the likes of it, we may not particularly like him, but Elon Musk through to Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Einstein, Nikola Tesla, all these amazing individuals who are actually neurodivergent. We wouldn't have the discoveries we've made in this world without neurodiversity. And in fact, we'd be a fair way behind where we are technologically. Just in general, we need people who can hyper-focus. We need people who can just see the world that little bit different. In that vein, I have been joined this week by the amazing Patrick Bevan. Patrick, how are you doing?
I'm great, Duncan. Pleased to be here. Thank you.
Really good to have you. I got hold of Patrick on the basis that he was featured in an article in the Manchester Evening News. He talks about the fact that he spent most of his life feeling kind of useless, feeling very underappreciated, undervalued, but more to the point that he was just out there trying to please everyone. And it wasn't until he identified himself as being an ADHDer that he was able to start working on himself and actually making changes, which are actually changing the business world around him. I want to dive into that. So it took a long time for you to come to an understanding that you're neurodivergent. What was that process?
I love what you said there. Actually, you should carry on talking about me. I'm going to hire you. It was my son, and I'm finding this in a lot of people in my age group. It was my son who was going through all sorts of challenges at school, going to swimming lessons and swimming the wrong direction, all sorts of weird things. And we got him to the point of getting an ADHD diagnosis a few years ago. And I just thought, not only am I incredibly supportive, but I'm exactly that. I swam in the wrong direction. And as my son struggled, I started to try and explore if it could be me. And obviously it takes ages to get a diagnosis, but I realized that the most important thing was to support my son. And I chose to get a diagnosis just for that reason. And I did all the online ones we've all probably dabbled with. And I support those. There's a danger in doing them because obviously you're being subjective. And just thinking back now, because ADHD mind, things are popping into it. One thing that really rings is the doctors that I spoke to on the journey to get to the psychologist to actually diagnose me. They all said, "Are you sure you want this diagnosis? It's a very serious thing. Do you want this? It's a label. Do you?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever. No, I'm doing this for my son. I'm doing this for my son." I got my diagnosis 2019, and I think I'd known for a year or so before that I was pretty sure to get it. But it did change a lot. Not only did I then turn 50 and go almost straight into lockdown. I don't know if that was part of the cause of the diagnosis. Who knows? You never know. Something about China. I just thought it was a weird. We all know how weird that time was, but I was going through a change, and I had the space and the time to really think back about how has this impacted me in my life? And yeah, I mapped it to what my son's been through, and thankfully my son's in a good place and we've been able to help him. But I'm sure you've been through the same. It's like a complete reframing of the past, where the one I desperately wanted to love was Mrs. Peckera at my school I'd have been about 11. I hated her because she bullied me. She didn't. I now know she didn't. I now know she wanted the best for me, and she just didn't know, and she didn't have the tools. And her way was trying to help me. But I struggled so much in school.
Yeah.
So it's things like that that have now started to ring true. And I've kind of gone through the analysis of my business life, and there have been some amazing successes. I worked for a fantastic, funky company in the 90s, before neurodiversity existed. And I was actually, by coincidence, out with the guy that I worked with. He's now retired, a millionaire. Yesterday he retired. I was out with him last night, and we were talking about that room. Everyone in that room was neurodiverse. We were a small startup in fund management, and we broke the mold for computer trading fund management in the city. We did stuff that didn't exist. We were just having fun.
Yeah.
Then I went into banking, and then I had a horrible time. So it's like it's weird. And only in the last few years where I was at Deloitte did I actually work to my proper strengths. I deliver something amazing for Deloitte, which you wouldn't expect from somebody just doing a normal job in an audit company. I spotted all the things that we could improve inside. I was backed by one of the lead partners saying, "Yeah, go on, get on with it then." And I did, and I delivered an efficiency program that over the years saved Deloitte millions. And that's kind of my message. I'm rambling now. No, I am. I want you to
No,
stop
no,
me.
because this is, I don't think it's rambling, because this is where it's fascinating. And I think we open this up talking about, and I've said it so many times on this channel, the difference that neurodivergent people make to the world that just goes so unappreciated.
Yeah.
But I've spoken before. My son's recently been diagnosed ADHD, and we wanted to get on top of it now because one of my good friends, or in fact, a couple of my good friends who have been adult diagnosed ADHD. One in particular, Chris, who I've interviewed a few times. We talked about his ADHD journey, and one of the things that he says is that he wish he'd known back at school. What you said there really, really rang true with me as well. What I appreciate is your reflection isn't blame laden.
Yeah.
And being able to say, no, they were trying to help in the best way they could. And I think it's this understanding of things like, there's so much out there at the moment. Oh, ADHD is everywhere. Everyone's ADHD, it seems to me, and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, it's so easy to get diagnosed ADHD. I might go and get it done at lunchtime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But it's like, no, do you understand when you're talking to, do you understand just what these people have gone through and the trauma it can create as well? And I think one of the things I really appreciated in the article is you talking about how you felt that you were just trying to please everyone. And because you didn't know, no one really understood ADHD back then. And so you kind of go through life. You went into, so the fawning process, if you like, you were just trying to please everyone. How was that for you? Because I can imagine that was a
That
trauma
word,
itself.
warning. And I've recently read a book about complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And it rings true from my childhood and many people who are neurodiverse who've had an undiagnosed childhood, where you do end up in that fawning role of like, I'm just trying to please. And to your point about everyone getting diagnosed, as a fawn, 20% of our energy goes on our brain. How much of that actual energy is going on fitting in, masking, doing the right thing to fit in the box that you shouldn't even be in? And that's what I'm realizing now, that so much energy has been, pleasing the wrong people,
Yeah.
almost treating every boss like a dad. And I had one boss who was actually pretty much corrupt, but I still tried to please him. That energy. So this is my message, really, and I'm happy to shout about it. That people of our generation, I'll be honest, I'm 54. We grew up in the same way that, if in the 70s you weren't really allowed to be gay, you weren't allowed to be. It didn't. I mean, there were two blokes that lived down the road in the same house, but that's just because they hadn't got wives yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't gay. No.
No, no, no.
But now it's wonderful with LGBT, and don't get me to do the other letters because I'm not sure what it is today, but I'm completely supportive. But I think we need the same with neurodiversity,
Yeah.
that it's still being sneered at, where the challenges our generation, and particularly our generation of leaders. So from a business standpoint, having been in those boardrooms, having been senior at Deloitte, I realized that there is a stigma, and I'm seeing more and more leaders that I'm talking to where they're happy to talk to me about neurodiversity. They'd love to talk to you about neurodiversity, but they won't talk to their peers because they'll be seen as weird. They'll still be viewed as that 1970s weird kid.
I get annoyed by how neurodiversity is represented on TV and in movies still,
Yeah,
because it's like, the good doctor, he's so rigidly autistic, and it's like, oh, we're trying to, be
yeah.
inclusive and show that, but it's like, yeah, but you're showing him as he's just being weird. But the majority of neurodivergent people I know, it's going to take a while for you to pick it up because, like you say, they're masking. It's only the most,
We're good at hiding.
well, this is just it. And, we've
Yeah.
got the tropes like Rain Man and I See His Music, which was just dire in its representation, in my personal humble opinion. You've got this whole sort of trope thing, whereas actually the majority of neurodivergent people you wouldn't know because
Yeah.
they're making eye contact, or they've got a sense of humor, or they actually are good at making friends.
It's interesting you say Rainman, because I've set myself a challenge: 1,000 business leaders who are like us, diagnosed late, because we need to change the narrative. And I'm calling it the Rain Man and Ricklin generation, because people of our generation think, oh yeah, Rain Man, the card counting savant, and Ricklin, the difficult kid.
I feel like I'm often critical of that film, but it's more because people just, you say the word autistic, oh, so you count cards, or you're brilliant at maths, or you're
Yeah,
this, or that. No, my daughter's,
there are faults with the film, but I think it's more that the man in the streets impression of the film is just the card counter. Oh, you're I bet you're good at maths. Well, actually, my autistic son is incredible at maths, but hey ho. My other son, who is autistic, you would not know.
Yeah.
at all. But we are so protected because we now understand. He did something wonderful for us at the weekend where we'd been away for the weekend. We now leave the kids on their own, which is the first time in our lives. Came back expecting a tip. Actually, our youngest son had cooked the meal. That had gone to Waitrose because it's Surrey. I live in Surrey. That's what you do. That's the cheap shop. You go in. He admitted to me he was anxious and he was nervous, but he was really proud that he'd asked somebody where something was. These are big wins for us. To a neuronormal, like whatever, but these are big wins in our life.
Well, I tell you, you've opened up something really interesting there, because that's something that I'm big on as well. I spoke to David and Kerry Grant, who
Oh, love
amazing
that.
people. Just they told this story, and I'm going to tell my version of it because it happened to me last week. We had my daughter's
Yeah,
HCP review,
yeah.
and they were
We
saying, "Well,
had
she."
many of those.
Oh yeah. There's so
Yeah,
much, but general. But my daughter's school are really good. She's in a special educational needs school, and the person doing the review with me said, "We're noticing she's being very verbally aggressive. She's swearing an awful lot at teachers, and we've got to sort of put an end to that." So I understand that's not cool, and we need to work with her. I said, but I want you to take a step back for a minute, because 12 months ago that would have been a smashed window and a trash classroom. Rather than seeing it as this is the negative, actually see
yeah.
how far she's come in 12 months, that we're no longer having these violent, aggressive meltdowns, that she's just saying it and storming off. And David and Kerry Grant tell the same similar story.
We'll have friends over, perhaps, sitting in our kitchen. Our son might have sworn, slammed the kitchen door, and stomped upstairs. That's Nathan. And David and I might look at each other and go, the guests are thinking, these are the worst parents I've ever seen. Was it just now? Did you hear that child just say the F word, walk upstairs, slam the door, and stomp up? Yeah. But actually, that's the first time he hasn't punched anybody. So for us,
It's a win.
this is a win. He has actually regulated himself to just go, rah, walk out and step away from the violence. That for us is a massive win.
Actually, these small wins, they start to build up. And when we can be supportive in that way, what a difference.
I've got to flip it because that is a lovely story. But on the same day that our son, sorry, who is identifying as a son but daughter, but our elder one, who is the maths genius, the more classic autistic, same day we're all sat eating dinner at the table. It's a lovely situation. He is so straight laced, it's unbelievable. He won't say boo to the goose. I asked him to dig over the garden when I was building a footpath, and he refused because he didn't want to kill any worms. He said the F word for the first time, and we all cheered. It's like, yay, Ben's learned the F word.
My daughter, she was a good few years ago now. She was once kicking off at me for something. And she said, "You're a talanta." And I didn't know whether to be offended at the fact she'd used the C word or impressed that she'd rhymed it.
Yeah, well done. Yeah.
That's something good, poetic
It's
license there. I appreciate that,
I do love seeing these new parents. They're like, "Oh, I think our little baby's almost about to talk." So enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah.
They don't stop.
Especially ADHDers.
Yeah.
The son can talk the hind legs off a donkey underwater with a mouthful of marbles.
I know you were asking me. I've got to ask, when did you get your diagnosis?
Well, I'm not. I'm actually a
Are you a
neurotypical.
fraud? Oh, you're a fraud.
I'm a
Okay.
fraud. Well, I'm a Jason. I do this because I went through a lot as a dad.
Yeah.
Coming to terms with this in my head. And I say this a lot. I think, and I'm talking in a very generalized way, but I think we as men, we tend to be problem solvers. Certainly that's my fault.
Yeah.
In that there's a problem, I research it, investigate it, understand it, implement a solution, problem solved. That's how I go through life. That's how I went through my work life. When I was hit with neurodiversity, and I've got a very neurospicy family.
Yeah.
I'm the only neurotypical in our family. Everyone else is, neurospicy, neurofunky, however you want to put it. I've got a family of zappers and I'm the Coldplay. That's how Ashley Blaker would have said it to me.
I like that.
Yeah, I had to go through a process to when I actually came to understand that neurodiversity can't be fixed. More so, it doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be embraced, understood, and supported. And I see my role in this channel, and what I do is I think the problem is that you get a lot of neurodivergent people who tune into them, but neurotypicals aren't interested and they'll flip away.
No.
I see myself as being a hopefully a bridge between the two, because almost all my friends now are neurodivergent. I've been labelled by some as an honorary autistic, and I wear that with a badge of pride.
So what are you then in the neuro term?
A
neuro nerd. You're a neuro
neuro
nerd.
nerd, Spice Boy. I don't know.
I like Spice Boy. That's a bit awkward though. That's weird.
Yeah, it could be misinterpreted. The biggest lesson I got it's interesting. I was talking to Nicola Ricci this morning, who runs the PDA Space Summit. She learned more from neurodivergent people than anyone else.
Yeah.
In learning to understand my daughter and support her, the best support mechanism I've had out there have been neurodivergent people, autistic people, who can give me an insight into her mind, into her inner workings that I can't gain as a neurotypical. So being able to relay that and hopefully support parents, and it really helps with supporting parent carers, because you know, a lot of times they're like yourself. They've seen, I was a lot like him when he was a kid, you know, when I was a kid, kind of thing, and they realize they're neurodivergent. We've seen that with my wife. Being able to talk to the other side of the community, where you've got, you know, neurotypical parents who just can't understand their kids and that they don't know where to go, being able to steer them in the direction and like I say, be that bridge. But part of crossing that bridge for me was learning that I've got to stand in the middle of it, but I've got to face the neurotypical community with the neurodivergent community.
No, because you've got me thinking back to when I was neurotypical, because I was.
Yeah.
Because I was. And this would be when Ben would have been about 5 or 6 and he was at Cubs before we pulled him out, because he'd get the football. We were there early, he'd get the football and he'd start kicking around. Some other kids would come in and get the football, and Ben would go and sit in the corner. Oops. Ben would go and sit in the corner, biting his nails and chewing his sleeve. And that took us down the diagnosis route, where we all of a sudden became different parents. And you do go through grief, but actually the best thing about a diagnosis for me was I could stop shouting at Ben in terms of, oh, just kick the ball like everybody else. Can't just kick the ball. It's like, oh no, I don't. And that's what I had as a kid. It's like, oh, why can't you? Why did you run over there when I passed it over? No. So that having that appreciation is brilliant. But we've definitely seen friends in our circle where you can kind of diagnose their kids, but they are hovering over them. Do your homework, do your homework, do your homework. So that's not going to work.
I said it, I had to relearn parent. PDA is particularly challenging because you've got.
We're not sure if we have it, but we think we do. We haven't got the diagnosis, but PDA is almost like a new thing of the last couple of years, but it is very real.
What really got me is that you've embraced your neurodiversity, you've embraced your ADHD, you've embraced this difference, but you're actually reaching out to other business leaders who are neurodivergent and coaching them. How did that come about? Was that organic?
Organic, actually, and it's now purposeful, because my website's going to change, but if you went there, it still looks quite businessy. And I've worked at a very senior level in HSBC Investment Bank and at Deloitte, and I ran Deloitte's transformation program before I walked off in disgust about the time I got diagnosed, thinking, what the hell am I doing? I don't belong in these boxes anymore. Generally, Deloitte's brilliant and it was good for me, so I'm not going to rubbish it. But I realized I'm really good at solving problems. I'm good at having fun. I'm good at helping people. I'm a good connector. I'm a good catalyst. So instead of doing it for big, ugly companies that Deloitte puts me in, I want to go and find people that need it. And it started well, where it's not just coaching, I'm a business change support for a business leader, and it has to be the leader because that's where the change happens. And over the year and a half that I've been doing it, I've realized the fun is with the neurofunky people that need the extra support because they're trying to fit in the norm. Not everyone can be an Elon Musk and just do whatever they want. Most people, one client is in a very serious investment world, and you know, he just has to do what is needed. Why I'm kind of shouting more now is, well, I've realized that I need to get these leaders on board to break the stigma, to open up to the fact that you don't need to go and hire 50 new neurodiverse people because this report's come out the other week. You've already got them. They're hiding. They're putting energy into just doing their best to fit in. Let's expose them and welcome them in a way they'll talk. Now, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, which is interesting, but I've worked out that's bubbles. So I've got an ADHD bubble, so I can talk about ADHD to the counsellor home, to people that know about ADHD. Now, most of them will tell me that I don't know it in enough detail, or in this case, I don't care. You get it. I want to talk to people outside of that bubble who don't get it. And that resonates to what you said a few minutes ago. It's like, we are the bridges, and it's fantastic that you, as a neuro norm, now diagnosed, a neuro weird, through your situation, you've come to this and you've really embraced it. And it's like more people like you, the better.
I agree totally. It's interesting. One of the things I talk about, my goal this year, I usually have a goal with what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
This arena each year is educating educators. So getting teachers to understand neurodiversity and actually specifically look for masking. Really got me with what you just said, is that's something that shouldn't just be something I'm focusing on with schools.
No.
With businesses, that's exactly it. If you can start looking for ways people are masking and identifying, and you can be more supportive as a boss, as an employer, as a business, but you'll also be able to embrace the benefit. People forget that there's so many benefits to being neurodivergent.
Yeah. You may have come across her, Leanne Maskell.
Right.
She's all over ADHD. If you go on LinkedIn, she's all over ADHD. She's going in and talking to companies about the benefits of it. And this is going to be me coming across an old man now. I think what she does is great. It's quite shouty, but she's talking to DE and I people who are quite young, and they're all talking in the DE and I community, and that's great. And there's lots of young people and say, "Hey, great." The big marker for me is a friend of mine who told me, and he is very neuronormal. He used to be very serious and senior in a bank. They said, "Oh, this woman came in and talked about ADHD." It's a lot of nonsense, really. That message is so easy in the bubble and in the young people. I don't want to do down what Leanne does because I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
But it's idiots like me that need to come out and say, you know what, you didn't know I was weird, did you? I'm weird. This is weird. Let me play, and you'll get that thing I did at Deloitte that saved them millions of pounds and I was actually growing every year. It's like I embedded something that's millions of pounds. Get us actually singing to our full ability.
Yes.
It's there, ready to be done.
It comes back to I've put it on here a few times, but this whole thing with Jimmy Carr saying that that focus is wrong. We focus on all rounders with our education, and
Yeah.
we have this focus, but actually we need to focus on the people who are passionate and really good at each individual thing. Find what you're good at and focus on that. And it doesn't have to be the best in the world at it. If that's your best thing and you're loving it, that's what we should be embracing and culturing.
And when I set this change alchemy, as I've called it, because I've worked out I'm good at this change, I'm good at helping people with problems, I then tried to go and help in a staid, upright, sensible way because I thought I've got to earn money. I've actually switched my mind. I still need to earn money, but I'm thinking I need to help the people that need help and work out the money will come. The money, forget that. I can now be genuine and say, this is the area I want to help people in, because everywhere I'm going. Just the other week, there was a very senior partner at Deloitte, met him, very senior, recently diagnosed, not going to tell anybody. Or he's telling his close circle, but quite rightly, he doesn't trust all of the other senior leaders to treat him properly.
It reminds me of, I remember Analyze This. It reminds me of Analyze This because there's that whole thing. He's the mob guy. He needs therapy, but he has to keep it secret because if anyone else finds out in the mob, then he'll be gone, and it feels like that for a lot of people in business, where if I am authentic to myself, it's going to cost me everything. I imagine it's what a lot of the LGBTQ plus community felt.
Yeah.
And probably still feel.
How old are you?
I'm 50. I'm 51 in a few days.
Congratulations. So you're very close to me at 54.
Yeah.
When I worked in the city in the 90s, nobody was gay.
No.
At all. Nobody was gay. No. Now you're in an office, it seems like everybody is. And that's great. But they clearly were then. You just didn't know.
Exactly. It's sort of the urban camouflage almost, isn't it?
Driving that message. And I think we need to stick together on this, because the more of us that are out there, as I say, I've set my stupid challenge for the year, other than swimming a marathon distance in 3 months, which I'm finishing this afternoon, which has been boring as hell. I wanted to work out, can I get to the point where I like swimming? No. But also it's this, can I get 1,000 leaders to join my club? And then through that club, we will work out how we can support each other to take those steps out to bring the message of this is a good thing. Anyone who's watching this and is thinking, I'm on this, you're in business, you've got you're high up, or whatever level of business you are, even if you're just an employee, I guess, and you want to be able to. A leader doesn't mean you have to be an Elon Musk. It's you're in business. I mean, I'm looking at even potentially doing some training of all the stuff I've learned that's helped me, because a lot of training's helped me.
Yeah.
Can I package? I'm looking at, can I package that to help neurodiverse people, all the way from like manager up? Because as soon as you get to be a manager and you've got people problems, God, it's difficult.
100% back. I think it is fantastic seeing this stuff out there. If people want to have a look at where you are online, where can they do so? What's the best place to?
Either on LinkedIn, Patrick Bevan. I have my website, which is going live, changealchemy.co.uk, or Facebook. Well, actually, both on LinkedIn and Facebook, I've just created the group, the Rain Man and Ritalin Generation. It's going to be fun, but to help people.
Yeah.
And I'm putting out my own personal tips on what I've been through, my top 11. You, of all people, will know why it's 11.
Absolutely.
One louder. Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder? These go to 11.
This is the other thing. Everyone says, oh, yeah, we all forget to go upstairs and pick up that piece of paper. No, we do it to 11.
You do it to 11.
We don't go near the stairs. We're out the door. We're in the shop. Yeah. So there's the Rain Man and Ritalin generation, and it's how can we support ourselves at this grown up level? Let's create a safe space to start having open conversations about, well, how do I get out from under that, away from that mask? And it's not just for diagnosed people, because you and I know a lot of people out there have not got diagnosed but suspect.
Self-diagnosis is so valid, especially in this day and age. I really believe in it. Yeah.
I think so, because then you can start exploring and live to your true self. You don't have to have a purple Mohican, but I would recommend it.
Gee, rub it in, you know. Mine's a reverse Mohican.
Maybe you could, it might grow.
I could do them like the Prodigy with the.
Yeah, do it.
I think we've covered so much in this. I know that I reckon we should do we should do this again and do a top 11, and we'll go through your top 11, you and I, and we'll make the
brilliant. I want to do this again. I want to keep in touch.
100%. I feel like I've found a brother.
See, with my family, I won't be surprised.
Patrick, it has been an absolute joy speaking to you.
I know, I am special.
Yeah.
This has been acceptable for me. I haven't not enjoyed it.
Yeah. What I like is that you're so modest with it. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Can't think of anyone more humble. I mean, I had an argument with Donald about it, but you know.
Please do go check out Patrick's website, and I'll put all the links in the description so you can go and follow on from that. We will definitely be talking with Patrick regularly moving forward we can cover all this stuff, and I think it's been fascinating. So thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure, Duncan. I'll see you again soon.
Fantastic. We'll see you again on the next episode. In the meantime, please do stay safe.